Could this mass grave be the remains of a lost Roman legion? That's exactly what researchers are investigating. It's possible this mass grave is connected to the mysterious disappearance of the Legio Twinine Rapax. The Legio Twinine Rapax. Their disappearance is still a big historical mystery, and this discovery could potentially rewrite what we know about it. Okay, picture this. You're out kicking a soccer ball or just enjoying a park, and suddenly, right under your feet, a secret emerges from an empire that shaped the world. That's precisely what happened recently in Vienna, Austria. We're talking about a hidden Roman Empire-era mass grave discovered underneath a soccer field. So what exactly did they find down there? Let's dive deep into this unexpected discovery in Vienna and explore how it sheds light on the city's very beginnings. First things first, let's set the scene. This discovery wasn't part of some big planned archaeological dig. It was actually way more accidental. It all started back in October 2024 during routine renovations at a soccer field in Vienna's Simmering district. Simmering isn't exactly where you'd expect to find major Roman Empire remnants. You'd think those would be right in the heart of Vienna. Simmering is a bit off the beaten path, located about 7 kilometers southeast of where the main Roman settlement of Vindobona was situated. Vindobona, of course, being what eventually evolved into modern-day Vienna. It's like finding a piece of ancient history miles outside a major city today. What was going on out there? That's what makes this discovery so intriguing. Back to the soccer field. Construction workers are going about their business, and boom, they hit something unexpected. A bunch of human bones. Stumbling upon a whole bunch of skeletons while renovating a soccer field isn't your average Tuesday afternoon. Immediately, they called in the experts from the Vienna Museum and a team of archaeologists. So what did the archaeologists uncover? What was the scale of this mass grave? The initial findings were staggering. They estimated at least 129 individuals buried there, with the potential for even more. One of the most striking things was that all the remains analyzed belonged to young adult males. Young men, huh? That definitely adds another layer of mystery. Not just young men, but they were generally healthy and quite tall for the time, averaging around 1.70 meters. A group of healthy young men all buried together. It doesn't sound like they just died of natural causes. And that's where things take a bit of a dark turn. The skeletons showed very clear signs of violent trauma. Lots of injuries consistent with weapons like swords, lances, and daggers. It definitely seems like a potential battle scene. They even found evidence suggesting some individuals might have been struck by projectiles from something like a Roman crossbow or ballista. So, not just hand-to-hand combat, but maybe some ranged weaponry involved too. It gets even more chilling. One archaeologist found a lance tip still embedded in a pelvic bone. Talk about a visceral reminder of the violence these men faced. It paints a pretty vivid picture of the brutality of that moment. They found all these skeletons bearing the marks of battle. But what about the burial itself? Was it typical? That's a key part of this puzzle. Standard Roman funerary practice during this period was cremation. Cremation was the norm back then. But these individuals weren't cremated. They were buried whole. And it seems to have been done very hastily and without any elaborate rituals. A quick and unceremonious burial definitely suggests an emergency situation, like right after a major conflict. Archaeologists believe it points to a chaotic aftermath of a large-scale event, where they simply didn't have the time or resources for proper burials. What kind of event could have led to such a situation? That's where the other discoveries at the site come in, the artifacts found alongside the remains. This is where we start to get some answers. They unearthed a number of Roman military artifacts. So these weren't just any old bones. The evidence strongly suggests they were Roman soldiers. One of the most significant finds was an iron dagger with incredibly detailed silver filigree inlays. A dagger with silver filigree sounds beautiful, but also like a pretty high-status item for a soldier. And that's not all. They also found numerous lance points, fragments of scale armor, those overlapping metal plates Roman soldiers wore, and even a cheek piece from a Roman helmet. Plus, they found a ton of hobnails, the ones from their military sandals called caligae. Those distinctive hobnails were pretty much everywhere across the Roman army, a standard issue item, making them a very strong indicator of military presence. And these hobnails were scattered throughout the mass grave. Okay, so we've got weapons, armor, and even footwear, all pointing to Roman soldiers. Now, when exactly did all this happen? Archaeologists used a combination of scientific dating and artifact analysis. Radiocarbon dating of the bones gave a broad range of 80 to 234 AD, but the artifacts helped narrow it down. Remember that fancy dagger with the silver filigree? The style of that dagger and its silver work were popular for a relatively short period. By comparing it to other dated artifacts, they were able to pinpoint the likely production date of the dagger to around 92 AD. 92 AD, now that date has significance. It aligns perfectly with a period of major Roman military activity along the Danube frontier. The Danube was a key part of the Roman Empire's border, part of the Limes Germanicus, or the Danubian Limes, a heavily fortified border separating the Roman Empire from the Germanic tribes to the north. 92 AD would have been during the reigns of Emperors Domitian and Trajan, and here's where things get really interesting. Historical accounts from that time mention a Roman legion being completely wiped out around 92 AD in this general area. It's possible this mass grave is connected to the mysterious disappearance of the Legio Twinine Rapax. The Legio Twinine Rapax. Their disappearance is still a big historical mystery, and this discovery could potentially rewrite what we know about it. Imagine an entire Roman legion vanishing from the historical record, and then centuries later, their remains are found beneath a soccer field. It's mind-blowing. If it turns out to be them, it would be a huge discovery. So we've got this mass grave potentially linked to a lost legion. But what does this all have to do with the founding of Vienna? How does a battle miles away from the main Roman settlement connect to the birth of a major European capital? It seems like a big leap. But here's the leading theory. This devastating Roman defeat might have actually been the catalyst for Vienna's existence. Think strategically. If the Romans suffered a major defeat here, they would have needed to bolster their defenses. You don't want to leave yourself vulnerable, and that's what seems to have happened. Just a few years after the estimated date of this battle, the Roman fort of Vindobona underwent a massive expansion and fortification. They beefed up their defenses in response to this defeat. Vindobona became a much stronger military presence. It's thought this military setback highlighted the strategic importance of the region, forcing the Romans to transform Vindobona into a major legionary fortress. And that fortress eventually became the heart of modern-day Vienna. So in a way, this devastating battle and the loss of all those soldiers might have inadvertently paved the way for Vienna's future. That's fascinating. A city born from the ashes of defeat. It makes you think about how much of history is shaped by unexpected events. And there's another reason this discovery is so important. It provides the first direct archaeological evidence of a major battle between Roman forces and Germanic tribes in the immediate vicinity of Vienna. We've known they clashed in this region, but this is the first time we're seeing physical proof on this scale. It takes historical accounts and brings them to life. It's one thing to read about it, it's another to see the remains of the actual battle. Now, remembering that cremation was typical, is finding a mass grave of uncremated Roman soldiers like this common? Not at all. It's incredibly rare, especially in Central Europe. Cremation was standard, part of their culture and beliefs. Why were these soldiers buried differently? The fact they were buried whole and hastily suggests extraordinary circumstances. It likely means they were overwhelmed and simply couldn't carry out traditional funerary rites. It's a grim reminder of the chaos and devastation that must have followed that battle, underscoring the brutality of ancient warfare. And the research is just getting started. Archaeologists are planning DNA analysis on the remains to try and pinpoint the soldiers' geographic origins, maybe even find familial relationships, like a 2,000-year-old family reunion, kind of. They're also doing isotope analysis to understand their diets and trace where they might have been recruited from. We could learn a lot more about the composition of the Roman army. The Vienna Museum is planning a big public exhibition around 2027 to showcase these finds. It'll be amazing to see those artifacts up close. This whole discovery reminds me of the Battle of the Teutoburg Forest in 9 AD, another crushing Roman defeat by Germanic tribes. There are accounts of Roman soldiers being hastily buried there too, just like in Vienna. It seems both battles resulted in such overwhelming losses that traditional burial customs couldn't be followed. It's a sobering reminder of the risks legions faced on the frontiers, and that even the mighty Roman army wasn't invincible. This discovery makes you wonder what other secrets lie beneath our modern world, waiting to change our understanding of the past. History is all around us, even in ordinary places like a soccer field. Who knows what other mysteries are waiting? It's exciting to think about the stories still waiting to be told. There's so much we don't know, and every discovery brings us closer to understanding the complex forces that shaped our world.